Hello there, kids. For this topic, we are going to talk about conversion. Okay, so always put in mind that for every hour, it's equivalent to 60 minutes. So for every 2 hours, it's equivalent to 120 minutes. And of course, 3 hours, it 3 times lang natin yan. Teacher Mark, how did it become 120? Siyempre, 60 plus 60 will give us 120. And if you're going to add another 60, it will give us 180. As long as always remember that for every 1 hour, it's equivalent to 60 minutes. Okay, yan ang pinaka-importante. So which means if you are having examples such as for page 174, let's say we have 3 hours and 10 minutes. What is its total in minutes? So all you need to do is to, of course, change the hours first to minutes, which is knowing that 3 hours is equivalent to 180. And of course, add the given minutes as well. So 180 plus 10 will give you 190. Okay, so let's say you have 5 hours and let's say 40 minutes. What is its total in minutes? So all you need to do is just to take 5 hours and convert it to minutes. Okay, knowing that for every hour is equivalent to 60 minutes, all you need to do whenever you need to change hours to minutes is take the minutes, 60, and multiply to the number of hours given, which is in this case is 5. So and proceed with multiplication. So that's 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 6 is 30. So which means 5 hours is equivalent to, erase ko lang muna to. 5 hours is equivalent to 300 minutes. And of course, we have this 40 here, so we have to add it up as well. And this will now give you an equivalent of 340 minutes. Okay? So, sa letter B naman of the same page, 174, you are basically just asked to give the given minutes in hours. So for example, for every 60 minutes, always remember that it is equivalent to 1 hour. So if there's 120 minutes, that's equivalent to 2 hours. Okay. Now, how do you find out, kung for example, let's say, ang hinihingi sa inyo is, kunwari, 240 minutes. How will you be able to find it in terms of hours? Okay, easy. All you need to do is just to take the number. This is for letter B, ha. Just take the number and divide it by 60. Because for every hour, it's equivalent to 60 minutes, diba? So, i-divide nyo lang para makuha ninyo ang unit in terms of hours. Okay. So, that will give us, if you know how to do this, meron ng technique. It's either you're going to divide 240 divided by 60, or you can do it by canceling some numbers, which is itong zeros. And you will be left with just 24 divided by 6. And obviously, it will give you 4 if you know your multiplication table. Okay, so ganun lang yung shortcut natin dyan. So 4 hours ang answer natin dito. Okay, so for page 175, it's basically the same as B. It's just that you are having a remainder here. So for example, knowing that 60 minutes nga, diba? It's equivalent to 1 hour. If you're asked for a minute here, obviously your minute is equivalent to 0. But if it's 65 minutes, it's equivalent to 1 hour, and you have an extra 5 minutes. If it's 80 minutes, so if you're going to take 60 out of it, you'll have an extra 20. So that's equivalent to 1 hour and 20 minutes. So what if the number goes bigger? Same lang, i-divide nyo lang talaga yan by 60, technically. Okay? So, kunwari you have a random number which is, let's say, 325. So, 325 minutes in terms of hours and minutes, breaking it down further. So, think nyo lang kung ilang 60 ang kasya dyan. So, that's basically 325 divided by 60. You can either do it the long way or short way. Long process is adding it one by one. Mas maganda if you already have this guide, no? Yung ganito na kaagad. So, this gives us 180. You have 3 hours na dito. 1, 2, 3. And if you notice, 180 is still far from 325. Let's try to add another hour. So, this will give us 240. Try to give it another hour. And this will give us 300. And if you're going to try to give it another hour, this will now give us 360, which is already over 325, which means this should not be included anymore. Okay, so how many units of 60 did we make use of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5. 5 times 60 is equivalent to 300. Subtracting that, we will have 5, 2 left. So this is your number of hours, and your remainder is your minutes. So our answer here is 5 hours and 25 minutes. Okay? So, ganun lang kadali yung mga activity ninyo. Okay, para naman sa page 176, it's basically like parang you can make use of your determining the number of hours and minutes between two times, no? So, for example, let's say you have 7:15 to 7:30. Ilang hours yan, tsaka ilang minutes ang difference nila. So, obviously, in terms of hours, we don't have any difference. But in terms of minutes, we have an increase from 15 to 30, which is equivalent to 15 minutes. Now, what if we have 7:15 to 8? If you notice, no, kasi if you'll get confused, what you can do here, yes, you may see that there is an increase in terms of hours, but it has not reached 1 hour yet, because 1 hour after 7:15 is equivalent to 8:15. The minutes should also be the same. Okay? So, ganun dapat ang pag-determine whether an hour or a time has reached an hour. Okay? So, you can basically make a timeline, no? If solving this kind of exercises to determine whether umabot na ba ng isang oras or hindi pa. So, what do you mean by timeline? Sige na, I'm gonna show you sa next example. So, dito muna, and knowing that for every 1 hour there's 60 minutes, no? Ibig sabihin, ang 15, you just count 15 to 60, or basically subtracting 60 minus 15, which will give you an equivalent of 45 minutes. And of course, 0 hours tayo dyan. Kasi nga, hindi umabot ng 8:15 ang oras natin. So, let's say you have 8:20 and the time here is, let's say, 11:30. Number of hours and minutes ang difference nila. So, it is safe for you to make parang a skip count of the time. So, you have 8:20 and 9:20. This marks your first hour. Then 10:20. then 11:20, and try to do the next hour, which is 12:20. But if you notice, 12:20 is already more than 11:30. Correct? Ito, 12:20 is already more than 11:30. So which means you should not include this anymore. So what you can do here now is to count the number of hours that you've made use of. This is your first hour. This is not your first hour. No, that is not your first hour. This is your first hour. And then goes next to your second hour and your third hour, which means you now have 3 hours in total. Okay? Kasi timeline yan eh. We start at 0. And then, if you notice, from 11:20, which is our final skip count of hours of time, interval of 1 hour, how many minutes needed to reach 11:30? So, from 20 to 30, how many minutes yan? So, obviously, the answer is, how many minutes more yan kailangan from 11:20 to 11:30? So, we only have a difference of 10. So, from 8:20 to 11:30 is equivalent to 3 hours and 10 minutes. Okay? So, ganun lang kadali in terms of counting. Now, there are also times na medyo nakakalito. Nakakalito siya kasi, let's say for example, you might get confused by it at some point. Kasi there will be times that, for example, you have 2:15 to, let's say, 9:05. So, what is the equivalent in terms of hours and minutes? I mean, their difference in terms of hours and minutes. Okay. So, try natin skip count 2:15 to 3:15. This marks your first hour. 4:15, 5:15, 6:15, 7:15, going to the next 8:15. And if you notice, we now reach 9:15. Pero take note, yung 9:15 nyo is obviously already over 9:05. So, hindi pwede yan. Hindi na natin magamit yan. So, we have to remove this part. We will stick to one technique lang kasi it will be confusing for the rest. Okay, we start at 0. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So, we have a total of 6 hours from that time alone. Wala pa yung minutes, no? But if you notice, our last time is 8:15. So, you need to reach this certain time ng 9, which is 9:05. Pero, to make it less confusing, count na lang muna ang 15 until it reaches the last hour, which is ang 60. Kasi nga, knowing in every, for every hour, there's an equivalent of 60 minutes. So, in other words, if you are going to reach this 60, it will now become, for example lang, itong 15 minutes, no? 8:15. If you're going to continuously count 16, 17, 18, until it reaches the next hour, which is 9 o'clock. So, this basic, in other words, yung minutes nyo, it reach a total of 60 na. Okay? Kasi nga, for every hour, there's an equivalent of 60 minutes. So, count nyo lang muna. 60, 15 until it reaches 60. Or in other words, 60 minus 15. Which will give us a total of 45. Okay, is that the answer na, teacher? Not yet. That's not the answer yet kasi may lagpas tayo na 5 minutes by the hour. So, ang gagawin nyo na ngayon is to take this value, which is ang 5, and add it to this given number. after subtracting. So that's an equivalent of 50. So which means you have 6 hours and 50 minutes. Okay? So ganun lang yung basically ang page 176. Pero sige lang, let's try another one. Let's say you have 3, let's say 9, 30 to 1, 10. So what is its equivalent in hour? I mean, what's their difference in hours and in minutes? Okay. So skip counting. Intervals of 9:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. I mean, sorry, correct na. 12:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, and let's try 1:30. But then again, if you notice, our last hour is already over 1:10. So we should not be including that anymore. Okay. So this is your 0, 1, 2, 3. So you have a total of 3 hours. Ang kailangan nyo na lang ngayon is to continuously count until you reach 110. Pero yun na nga, the technique here, to make it easier, just take 30, itong last minute na to, and subtract it from 60. Okay? Subtract it from 60. Kasi kung 1, if this time is just 135, all you need to do is just to count 30 until you reach 35. But our case is different nga. Kasi it needs to go to the next hour. Okay. So that's 60 minus 30, which is equivalent to 30, plus getting this certain time that is already over the hour. So that will give us a total of 40. Okay? So this now basically gives us 40 minutes. So that's 3 hours and 40 minutes. Okay. There's actually a way to do subtraction, pero yun nga lang, it might get confusing sa part ninyo. Pero sige lang, let's just try to do this muna this way. If you are confused with it, you can make use of a clock. That if you have a clock at home to borrow, gamitin nyo yan. You can make use of it as an activity for you. Okay? Para ma-count nyo kung ilang minutes talaga ba. Okay, so that you will be guided as well. So, for 177 naman, basically, it's easy. Adding, usually you just need to add what is being asked. So, for example, 2 hours, this is 177. For example, 3 hours after 5:45. So, you have 5:45. And if you add another hour, so that's 6:45, 7:45, and 8:45. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3 hours, correct na. So ano yung time after that? It's 8:45. Okay? So basically ganun lang for page 177. Then again, you might encounter times, tignan ko muna. Okay. So there are situations that you might encounter, such as, let's say, 15 minutes after 8:50. Okay. All you need to do is to add. Technically, kasi kung I'll give you another example. Let's say 5 minutes after, let's say, 8:50 pa rin. Okay, para mas makita nyo yung difference. So basically, all you need to do is just to add 5 sa minutes na yan. So that's 8:50 plus 5. This will basically give you 8:55. Okay, just to let you know that you cannot add minutes and hours. So dapat there should be a barrier here. Okay, that separates things. So in this case, we will end up with an 8:55. Pero dito naman sa taas, medyo you will not end up with that kind of answer. Kasi if you notice, you have 850, and if you're going to add 15, you now end up with 865. Have you seen a time that goes over 60? Have you tried asking someone, what time is it, mommy? What time is it, daddy? And they will tell you, it's 8:65, anak. Wala. 'Di ba? So, anong mangyayari dito ngayon? I'm just gonna show you. Erase ko muna to. Just erase this part first. So, ang mangyayari dyan, always remember nga, put in mind that for every 60 minutes is equivalent to 1 hour. Okay. So, which means if you're gonna take out 60 minutes out of this one, you are now left with 5 minutes. And for this one, all you need to do is just to change it to 1 hour. And once it's already in 1 hour, all you need to do is just to add it up with this hour over here. So that becomes 8 plus 1, which is equivalent to 9. And what is left here is 5 minutes. Do you write 5 like this? I mean, it's time, okay? So you do not write 9-5. Teacher, it's already 9-5. No, you do not write it that way because you should add a 0 before 5. Okay? Kailangan nyo mag-add ng 0 before ang 5. Which means if you have a time that says 9-1, it's 9:01, 9:02, 9:03. Okay? Hindi 9:03. Hindi 9:02. Not 9:1. Okay? And this is the correct time. Okay? So, ganun lang po whenever the time goes over 60. Again, you cannot combine hours and minutes. You need to change them first before you'll be able to put them together. Okay? So, ganun lang po yung activity ninyo for now. Do the same thing for 178, but this one is basically about before. Okay, going back. So, it's basically going back for page 178. Okay, so 178 is the opposite. Of page 177. So, going back lang tayo dyan. Okay? So, that's basically muna for your activity today. So, again, if please make use of a clock if you have a clock at home kasi mas maganda yung magpa-practice kayo with a physical clock rather than approaching it mathematically. Okay? Especially kayo because you're still learning. Okay, so that's it.